Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the launch, the first video of Coffee with Dragon. And we lift up the cup of coffee to inaugurate the first video, the launch on our YouTube channel and coming on our Facebook. The Coffee with Dragon. Cheers. This is a dark roast from Cuba. Raw, natural, and pretty tasty. Black, no milk, no sugar. And the first video will be dedicated to a review, a personal review of the movie Shape of Water. Just came out of the theaters about 3 hours ago. After seeing the movie, and if we can just summarize it with one word, it will definitely be masterpiece. I saw, first thing I saw about Shape of Water was the nominations for the Oscars and a video about the symbolism of Shape of Water. And as I said, that if there would be one word to describe it, would be a masterpiece. I have no idea where to begin in discussing the movie, since I enjoyed it so much that I have not eaten any of the candies that I've purchased. Found the cinematography to be very unique, to the point that you get a feeling, you really feel the movie. At least this is a personal opinion, and people have their own experiences while going to a movie, but my experience was a great feeling, the movie. And of course, in my own opinion, it's a deep movie that has many layers of meaning, profound, in-depth critique or analysis of our society, of our interactions with each other, of many different, of course, between humans and, one would say, the non-human world. I want to say there's a spoiler alert that it's possible that throughout my first dialogue with my fellow brothers and sisters of the internet, that it's a possibility that do spill some beans here. So you're warned. If you haven't seen the movie, go see it right now. So this, first, to go back to the point of making videos and what the channel will be all about, it's basically analyzing news, stories, and such, past, present, and present in the world, North America specifically, but also with an international, as a citizen of the world, and of international events, developments, news, and stories, and the like. But as I'm making this first video, since have just gotten out of the theaters and was so amazed by the movie Shape of Water that we'll discuss it. Would say that there are many themes or plots or themes. There's just not just one theme. Of course, my opinion, one of the main themes would be that of love, since it's basically the development of a of love from a human being to another being that is non-human, and how that love develops and forms, and how it's seen through the protagonist and how it's seen through the antagonists and of course the characters around it. But the main theme, in my opinion, is that it's about love in its diverse form, sort of a new age kind of spiritual, transcendent love. And of course, it's not only transcendent, but that main theme would be, in my opinion, that is the theme of love. That's what we felt. Was the main theme, with other themes, of course, being touched upon, such as racism in perhaps less in our present societies, but how it was in the 60s United States of America. It's not clear what year the movie, the timeline of the movie, there's several weeks or like a few months. Would have to say that it's maybe 2 to 3 months, the timeline of the movie. It's not specified, but since it's implied that the Cuban Missile Crisis had just occurred through one of the lines in the dialogues, we do know that it is really in the 1960s, maybe 1964, right, the civil rights era, or those years. However, it's not clear, but we could try and find out because of the Cadillac model, which is my favorite car that is depicted in the movie at one point. It's probably 64, the 1964 model, if my guess, simulated by some partial knowledge, is correct. It would be 1964, or it could be 1963 also. Many people have made many videos discussing some occult symbolism in it, and even they have diverged into nonsensical conspiracy theories and Illuminati, and will not do not believe in conspiracy theories myself, and stuff like that, so will not touch upon that aspect. However, there is, as somebody who has studied symbolic language and imagery, there is definitely symbolism of a more esoteric and occult manner, such as the water, right? The transformation that can occur because of water. And we see, for example, we see different shades of water, more purified water, more salty water, and the such, which is also reflective of states of emotional, has to do with the subconscious in many theories of our subconscious self, the emotional self, and so on, the urges and instincts that are deep within our subconscious self. So there's that layer also. And I'm just gonna go at random, more like with my analysis. Again, I have to say that it was a masterpiece. Definitely 10 out of 10. And I think this is one of the few movies that would probably go and see it again at the movie screen and see it a few times as great classics or cult classics for my millennial peeps. Such as The Matrix, high with The Matrix. In some ways, better, but you can make that comparison. That the genres, and yes, the genre. What would people personally would say that it's a fantasy, psychological drama, fantasy, psychological drama. That's what you would classify it as. I don't know what other people would classify it as, but that's what we would. So the main, the protagonist of the story is a woman who's mute, who hears mute. She cannot speak. Elise, Elisa, and her the developing of the relationship with this being that it's amphibious and that lives in water and that's at a secret laboratory. You have, of course, the antagonist, Mr. Strickland, who's depicted as a racist, very strict, southern, white male. And of course, by his tone and how he speaks to the women, and of course to other men also who are his personnel. Um, he is definitely the antagonist in the story. However, I do not want to give because I don't want to say the ending. So, but here's a very spoiler alert that, in my opinion, he is that antagonist that has redeeming value, that is at the end redeemed. Will not say how, you have to see a movie and let me know. Is redeemed by some words that he utters, and his transgressions, so to say, are redeemed, and his being is redeemed, or a redeemable protagonist. There is also the theme of class relations. We'll not touch a lot upon that, but there is, because of the dialogue and how more upper income people and middle upper income, of course, Mr. Strickland, who is the protagonist, is part of the more upper income, middle income, suburban white class of the 1960s. And you see the cleaning ladies, of course, the protagonist living in a more squalid, more poor environment, and so on and so forth, and how their profession of cleaning ladies, hers, meaning the protagonist, the main character, and her friend, who's also a primary character, how they're spoken to by Mr. Strickland in a way that reflects the class struggle and the classicism in many ways. There's a lot of green in the movie, and there's shades of green. This, of course, can be, in my opinion, interpreted as um, our yearning to reconnect to nature in many ways, because it's a very urban type of environment, but at the same time, green is a predominant color, and variants of shades of green, and red also. Red is also, green and red are seen as, of course, juxtapositions of the colors. And of course, this can also have symbolic meaning. Red, of course, being associated with revolution, passion, with warlike, and it does have that militaristic, warlike attitude, because there's the also antagonistic, the types of secondary antagonists, which are the Russians, of course. In the movie, of course, it's the timeline is during the Cold War, so you would expect that they're, of course, the antagonists, the Soviets, the what have you, and they're also trying to disrupt and spy, of course, espionage. And the Russian characters, of course, are shown as very militaristic, as is Mr. Strickland from the American perspective, but the Russians also very militaristic, and ideologically, both are ideologically dominated. Of course, the Soviets by communism, and of course, Strickland by American liberalism. There is also the theme of homosexuality, and how it was big taboo, and people, of course, were persecuting gays, and of course, racism, overt racism against blacks, African Americans. This is one of the major themes also, since, of course, the setting is the 1960s. But overall, the dialogue, the acting was never seen the actress before, and we'll have to look it up, because do not know who the actress is who plays Eliza Esposito, and it's Miss Sally Hawkins. The Amphibian Man is played by Doug James, and not never probably maybe have noticed before, but maybe saw movies with them both. But of course, after this performance that they both delivered, Sally Hawkins, in my opinion, and without being too scholarly, too academic about it, would give her the Oscar for Best Actress. Although I do have to mention that do not know the other nominations at the present moment in time, and would have to see the movies and the other performances and compare. But definitely an Oscar winning performance from Sally Hawkins, in my opinion. Um, so, as we said, the main theme is the theme of love in its, of course, a transcendent love, but also a love that manifests on the earthly material plane, but that has deeper layers of love, because it's also, spoiler alert, it's also physical between the amphibious being, and the woman, but it's so it's so pure, so innocent, and it's so real. It seems to be a connection at the most deepest levels of her being, that she connects. And do not want to spoil it, but do remember the dialogue. It's that the words that were said that are in my head. And at one point she says that he understands me, the way he looks at me, the being, the amphibious creature, which has humanoid characteristics we have to note. So there's that ambivalence, there's that question of us, are we really that disconnected from other creatures, from other animals, right? And of course, their union is, of course, a physical one, a sexual one, but it's a love based that's almost seemingly innocent and almost heroes gamus comes to mind. It's the Greek word for when the priests and the priestesses enacted divine unions in the Greek temples and the Babylonian ancient religion, and also the ancient Egyptian religion, where the pharaoh and his wife were seen as incarnations of divinities, and the priests and priestesses of Babylon and ancient Greece were seen as catalysts for Hieros Gamos, the divine merging of heaven and earth, if you will, of the gods and the goddesses with mankind. Of course, in a ritualistic setting and with ceremonials, ceremonies, and what have you. And so that's my take on it. Would definitely go see it again, twice, maybe three times. Um, very real, felt it. The dialogue was excellent, a masterpiece, and I'm gonna root for it for 13 Oscar nominations. And 13 is, in fact, the Kabbalistic Jewish gematria number for ahava, which is love, which spells aleph, chet. How you spell it, the Hebrew gematria numerology spells um, 13. And so